We are halfway through the 2024 college football season, and we've got several eliminations this week. We are finally starting to eliminate the Power 4 teams, and yeah, we've got a bunch of them this week. Let's jump right into it. We'll look at the updated playoff picture as well, and we start with the new eliminations. So you can see we got California, Coastal Carolina, Eastern Michigan, Fresno State, Kentucky, Maryland, Mississippi State, NC State, North Carolina, South Carolina, Toledo, and USC. All of these teams eliminated. If you haven't been following along, we eliminate teams out of the American and the Mountain West with 3 losses, and we eliminate teams out of the Conference USA, MAC, and Sun Belt if they have 2 losses, because that just seems to be the most likely case with those teams. And then, you know, it's kind of different with the Power 4 teams. You're looking at teams that have, 3 losses potentially, or teams that have 3 losses and have been eliminated from contention in their conference. Because, of course, if you win your conference championship out of the SEC, Big 10, Big 12, or ACC, you're going to make the playoff. So these teams are out of it. They have no chance. Their season, it's over in terms of the college football playoff. But let's break it down by conference now. So these teams out of the Mountain West and out of the American, they've been eliminated. We've updated this list. All of these teams now, again, eliminated. So how about the teams that are still alive? We've got 5 teams out of the American: Army, Memphis, Navy, North Texas, and Tulane. So you've got 5 teams there. And then out of the Mountain West, we're down to 3 teams: Boise State, San Jose State, and UNLV. So more than likely, I think your team is going to, the team that gets that number 12 seed, that group of 5 representative, is probably going to come out of these 8 teams. We could see a team out of one of those other conferences, but I feel like it's going to be one of these 8 teams. A lot of people like maybe Army or Navy, or maybe they like Boise State. UNLV still in this conversation. They don't even have a conference loss, so it's going to be interesting to see how this plays out. But these teams are still alive, again, out of the AAC and out of the Mountain West. They go to the other conferences, the other group of 5 conferences. So all of the MAC is now eliminated. We don't have any MAC teams still alive. So that's it for the MAC. And then you see all the teams eliminated from Conference USA and the Sun Belt. So teams still alive. We got James Madison, Liberty, Louisiana, Sam Houston, and ULM. And we'll probably, as we go through this series, we may combine this and just do all the group of 5 teams that are still alive on one screen for you, so you can see who the contenders still are. It's going to be interesting. Liberty, they go undefeated. They made it last year into the New Year's Six. Of course, we didn't have a 12-team playoff. Maybe they get back there. Maybe it's James Madison, Louisiana, Sam Houston, ULM. I think these teams are still alive. It's not for sure going to be an American or Mountain West team, but it does, to me, it seems like it's probably going to be a team out of one of those 2 conferences. But these teams definitely still alive. Let's go now to so we've got the independents here, and then also the Pac-2, whatever you want to call them. Really, the only team alive here is Notre Dame. Notre Dame is still alive, and I think they might have to win out. If they lose the game and they've got that loss to Northern Illinois on the resume, I don't know if they get in. We'll see how everything else plays out, but Notre Dame still in pretty good shape. Okay, let's move on now to the Power 4 teams. So this is the updated list now that we've added the new eliminations. These teams have all been eliminated. So we've got Auburn, California, Florida State. All right, Kansas really should have been on this list last week, because someone actually pointed this out to me. So they're not out of the race in the Big 12, but they've got 5 losses, which means even if they win out and win the Big 12, do we really think a 7-5 team is going to get in? Or I guess if they win their conference championship, a 7 or an 8-5 team is going to get in. A 5-loss team is going to get in over a 2-loss American or a 2-loss Mountain West team or whatever. I think the Big 12 would just get left out. So if Kansas were to win out and win the Big 12, I don't think the Big 12 gets in the college football playoff. So yeah, just wanted to mention that. They really should have already been eliminated last week. Then we got Kentucky, Maryland, Mississippi State, NC State, North Carolina, South Carolina, UCLA, and USC. So who is the biggest surprise here on this list at this point? Who did you think would not be eliminated at this point of the season? If you go back to the preseason, I don't think we would have expected to see Florida State on here. Probably not Auburn. Auburn, Florida State, I don't think would have expected to see them on this list yet. NC State, I don't think in the preseason you would have expected them to be on this list, and even USC. So several teams that have disappointed. And after week 1, I really wouldn't have expected to see USC on this list, but they have really dropped the ball. But yeah, these teams all eliminated, so that means there's still a ton of teams left in the Power 4. And a lot of teams that are still technically alive in their conference race, and that's why these teams. These are the teams that are on life support. They really probably have no chance of getting in, but technically they could still win their conference and get in if they win the rest of their games. So Arizona, Baylor, Houston, Michigan State, Minnesota, Northwestern, Oklahoma State, Purdue, Stanford, TCU, UCF, Virginia Tech, Wake Forest, and West Virginia. And so if you're wondering how I'm doing this, if you have a conference, it depends on which conference you're in. If you're in the Big 12, I think with three conference losses, you still have a chance, because that there's going to be potentially a lot of teams beating up on each other in that conference. Now for the ACC, the SEC, and the Big 10, I think 2 losses. If you get 3 losses, I don't think you have a real shot of making your conference championship in those conferences. So that's how I'm looking at that. Let's get now to the top contenders from each conference. We've got out of the ACC, SMU, Clemson, Pittsburgh, Miami, and Louisville. I still think it's Miami or Clemson, but SMU is definitely in this conversation. Pittsburgh has not lost a game, so we have to start looking at them. Louisville's got it tough because they're going to have Clemson and Miami coming up. They're going to have to win one of those games at least just to get to the conference championship. Might have to win on both, depending on what happens, everywhere else. So Louisville maybe doesn't have as good of a shot, but I still think they're a top contender along with these other teams. Now we go to the Big 12. We've got BYU, Kansas State, Texas Tech, Iowa State. There are other teams that are still maybe in this conversation, but these teams have separated themselves just a little bit. Arizona State, do we think they're good enough to be in this conversation? Maybe. They've been a surprise team, but I think it's probably between these 4 teams. BYU still undefeated. Texas Tech is undefeated in the Big 12. Same thing with Iowa State's undefeated. Kansas State just has the 1 loss. I think they're still in pretty good shape. That 1 loss coming to BYU. In fact, I'd probably say right now the favorite in the Big 12 might be, I don't know. I feel like it might be going to be Kansas State and Iowa State in that conference championship, but I keep doubting BYU and they keep proving me wrong. So we'll see. Texas Tech's kind of been quiet. They haven't had a big game in a while. We'll find out more about them in the coming weeks. Then we go to the Big 10 now. We got Penn State, Ohio State, and Oregon. These are clearly the top contenders. I know some of you are going to talk about Indiana. They're undefeated. I want to see, Indiana really just hasn't played anyone. Well, let's see what they do against Nebraska. If they look really impressive in that game, then maybe we have to start talking about Indiana in this top contender category. But right now, it still feels like it's between these 3 teams. And then the SEC, look, I've got Texas as the only top contender. I'm not saying they're the clear favorites, but these other teams have had so many ups and downs and question marks. I don't know if I can say who the other top contenders are. I thought it was Georgia and Alabama. Now I'm not sure about them. Let's see what Georgia does against Texas. Let's see what Alabama does against Tennessee on the road. LSU and Texas A&M are in a great position to potentially get to the SEC championship. So this conference has definitely been interesting this year and not what I expected. So the only top contender again right now that I can say for sure, that's Texas. And again, I'm not saying that they're definitely going to win the SEC, but they are the top contender as things stand right now. So that's the updated playoff picture, updated eliminations. You can give me your thoughts down in the comments below.